Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your Soul Wisdom. We are so excited today to have Solreta Antaria. Thank you for joining us. Solreta is a globally renowned clairvoyant ET UFO experiencer and psychic tarot reader with over 25 years in natural medicine. Combining psychic insights, kinesiology, and quantum techniques, she guides clients to align with their highest soul path. Featured on international TV and known for connecting with multidimensional realities, Solreta inspires people of personal evolution and soul alignment, passionate about holistic living and creator of soul alchemy potions. Solreta empowers others to manifest their best selves. Solreta, this intro doesn't even do justice with who you are, the energy you embody, your work, none of it. And I mean that from like the big, I know that's like, you're like, how can you say it? No, I mean that with all love and like admiration. I don't know if there's proper words to really put in the energy of who you are and what you embody.
Thank you. That's just so beautiful. So sweet. And my cat's decided to just go well and truly crazy in the background.
Your cat agreed.
She's giving you applause.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yana,
so-
why don't you tell us how we came to Solreta in the first place through the course?
That's what was just coming out of my mouth. So we have a beautiful the collective membership, like-minded, spiritually minded individuals in this monthly membership. Okay. And so one of our lovely members who is such a great listener, hi Stephanie, we love you. She shared your hypnosis session that you recently posted. And for anybody who wants to follow along, there is a part 2 to Solreta being present here. We're going to do a part 2 video based on that hypnosis. Right now, we're getting into your work and how you even came to this point. The link will be posted below on whatever platform you are listening on. And so when we get to part 2, go ahead and listen to the hypnosis first and then get into the episode. And so Stephanie shares your hypnosis video and she's like, oh my God, you need to like watch this. I think she said like a bunch of more stuff and I don't even remember, but I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to it on my way home. I didn't listen to it on my way home because I was on the phone with Rachel. But that evening I did put it on. And I think like the first 10 minutes, my entire phone was filled with so many notes. I was like, who is this woman? How can she be my friend? How do I get her on the podcast? And like, I need to be in her energy. And every one of these other ladies here know exactly what that feels like, because that's exactly what I felt from them too. Okay. I was like, yes. And so watching that video, I was like, oh my God. So I told everybody, gotta watch it. Told Stephanie, we're getting her on the pod. I messaged you right away. It took you like a day to respond, which was giving me so much anxiety because I was like, I'm gonna harass her. I'm gonna have to harass this woman.
No one makes me want to wait.
Yeah, totally.
Anything.
So you and I finally connected, which, you know, so excited for. But then I also got to experience your work. And before we really get into the magic of your work, I want to understand how, because you did light language, there was clairvoyance, you see auras, you drew my aura, there was a guide that was part of my aura that you brought in. Oh my God, please show it. Okay, like unbelievable. That is my guide, Mimtua. Okay, and so I'm connecting to him every night. Okay, and so that is just
Wow.
like we just started. And the thing with you is there's so much channeled information that comes out and so fast that I remember at some point we were shifting to something else. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much information and it's only been 20 minutes. Like, how is that even possible? And so before we get into that and even demonstrate to our lovely listeners your work, I want to know, what's that journey been like? How do you even get to this point? Were you always like this? Or is this something that you like sought after?
Yeah. So for me, it was probably around kindergarten age that I realized I was a little bit different. And to kind of keep it zipped, so going to kinder, not talking about colors that you see around people. So for me, clairvoyant from as long as I can remember, and always sort of, looking in the distance or looking at the sky. My family would call me a daydreamer, and my friends would be like, "Are you looking like at me?" And then when they learned that I read energy, it's like, oh, they're like, what color is around me? What does that mean? And yeah, so for me, color is another language. I find it a language of the soul. And depending on like what placements, and with your one, you'll see that you had this amazing double gold layer. And I was saying to you as well that this is only something that I've seen more appear in auras. So I'm 44. So having seen auras for forever, this is something I've only really seen start to shift and change in the last 2 years. And it represents a different form of consciousness coming onto the planet. And when I mean consciousness, it's more kind of, if we look at the old way that we held memory, it would have been more like a computer on a hard drive. Whereas this is where we're sort of starting to do away with that. So it feels like that part of the memory is being lost, or that we're walking into rooms and we can't remember why we've walked into a room. So with a double layer of gold in the aura, it represents someone who's more tapping into that divine channeling from their higher self. And so they've done away with the hard drive and they're more kind of pulling on information from the cloud. So it's not that we have to go and really, Google or research things. It's more just sitting quiet for a moment and things will just fall into the conscious mind. So that was one really exciting thing that I can point out from your aura that just is a shift within humanity at the same time.
That's like so wild. Like, who says that?
But that's really
Yeah, I'm
interesting.
not
Can I just throw in
surprised.
there though, Yana, right? Because you're that kind of person that if somebody gives you a seed, you grow that into an oak tree within 5 minutes. You store so much information, and it's just wild. No, but that really, really is how you do it. So you absolutely are tapped into something else. Well, it's not really tapped into something else, but you're tapped into like a higher place, and you literally download that information, and it's that speed, it's that lightning speed. I know sometimes, but I think sometimes you get frustrated because the physical body doesn't seem to catch up with how you process things and how things coming through, because you want it all like now, and the body seems to need to catch up. But Salute, 100%. I'm just speaking for Yana.
Listen, I'm going to add channeler to my
She
bio,
needs it.
okay? Because apparently. Okay, but so Rita, when you were younger, clearly like your friends or possibly even family didn't experience what you were experiencing. So was there a point where like people were like dismissive of it, or did it go away? Like, what was that journey that it seemed like you kind of just carry it with you like all this time?
Yeah, so I guess they just saw me as a dreamer, and I'd get nicknamed Spacey or other things like that. So it just, they just thought I was in this world of imagination. And even I guess as I got older, it was really good because I could talk about the ET UFO experiences, talk about encounters. But when I was able to actually start to film some of those, it was like, okay, well, some of the things that I talk about that are a little bit strange, they're now appearing on camera. And the same with the fairies. So yeah, it's just, I feel like part of my mission is to be here to be a conduit between worlds and to kind of whisper things that I'm seeing in the other worlds. And now they're just, starting to appear on camera.
Do you think that the reason okay, so you actually have on your social media, and by the way, in my recording, I did notice at one point that there was this little green, it's almost like a neon green, if you will, this little neon green fairy just dip across the video. I know that sounds absolutely insane. And so can we just dive into that a little bit? Because you and I had a little bit of a conversation about it. And so Amanda, we all sit here and we're like, especially Amanda's like, fairies are real and dragons are real and mermaids are real and all this stuff, but we don't see in our everyday reality.
Didn't you just see one at the back, just about literally 2 minutes, a minute ago, as you started talking? It just, as when Solreta was talking, one just went in the back, just came round like a curve and just went down to the bottom just there. I just went, but nobody said anything. Nobody saw it. Just went curved around the back. Yeah, so sorry.
I'm paying more attention
her
now.
screen a lot. I'm so sorry to bring it down. And it's, Solreta, when I was watching your video, because Yana and I watched her session together, which was fantastic. But honestly, it was like I was describing you as that four energy, as in you just radiate self. You're like the sun, that kind of thing. But there hasn't been anything that you've mentioned or in any of the sessions, the two things that I've seen or now, that suggest any part of darkness. So what's your experience with that? Because it's all lovely seeing fairies, but I'm thinking if you're seeing fairies, you're seeing other things, but I don't know. And I'm interested, I want you to be the sun, but have you had any experience of seeing the darkness, and how do you cope with that? Or are you just so bright it's not a problem?
Excellent question.
No, it definitely, that's such a great question. And I always talk about, when I'm teaching, so I teach how to see auras, and I've taught other psychic development classes, but I always talk about discernment being the best tool. And it's like, we need to hold that in the highest of esteem. So when I'm working with things, I'm always talking about protection. I'm always talking about only aligning, which is that for your best and highest good. So even like when we were talking, about guides and things like that with clients, I always talk about put your protection up first before you do any form of communication, and then check in. Do they love me unconditionally? And ask it 3 times, or are they here for my best and highest good? So it's more kind of about having your protection. So as a kid and laying in bed at night, I actually was going into my parents' room pretty much every night up until just before turning 18. And I didn't have anyone there as a guide or anyone there to tell me that what I was seeing, that that it was more sort of on the astral planes. I'd have portals open in my bedroom. I would have mandalas just sitting there energetically, just buzzing with light when next to my bed. So for me, I always went to sleep after the witching hour. So it was sort of around 2, 3 in the morning, I could just start to fall asleep. So finishing high school at the same time, it was a lot. It was just trying to be awake as much as I could, because I didn't want to go off to sleep, because some of the experiences that I was having were more of the abduction, I guess you would call it abduction variety. But I didn't know at the time, is it positive? Is it negative? For me, what I learned about much later, and even during the regressions, is a lot of them were positive contact, just keeping me open to be able to see things, keeping me open to be able to download and get messages. But I have experienced what I would say is more kind of a negative Klingon attack from Greys younger on, when I was around maybe early 20s, but it actually taught me a lot of psychic self-defense. So it taught me frequency shifting, how to kind of tune into my energy like it's the internet. So imagine it being, having its own dial-up frequency, if we're talking about old internet. And you have this sort of frequency or code that you emit. And so what happens with entities is they tend to attach on to specific frequencies. So I would just go in and change my color, change the shape that I saw, and just move at least 2 octaves above anything that was sort of negative. And what happens is they end up going like this. They're like looking for you, but you're offline. So that would be one experience. But, I've walked through narcissistic abusive relationships. So that would be more on a human level, where there's maybe a bit of possession, entity stuff happening behind the person, seeing eyes roll black and a whole assortment of other kinds of spooky things, as well as, ghosts and things like that.
Oh, the norm.
Okay.
Like
The norm.
See, this is the thing. It sounds beautiful to have all of these gifts, but I just don't. I mean, like, obviously I'm not ready for it, but what it comes with, it all seems so equal and opposite always with all of you guys.
What do you mean?
With all the gifts come all the responsibility, and with all the gifts come all the risk, and with all of the openness comes all the vulnerability, and round it goes. Like, it's almost like you get on this freaking, not treadmill, I'm thinking more like a vortex, that you have to actually keep going at speed to keep up with all of this, to keep developing, to keep rising, because otherwise it's really, do you know what I mean? It almost feels like when this spark's lit, you have to keep going.
Yeah, because it's kind of like that saying, isn't it? Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Do you know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah, and you're almost sort of locked into it.
But for me, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I wouldn't want to go back to sleep. I wouldn't want to be asleep. I wouldn't want to be not. Yeah, I just couldn't. I just couldn't. So it's just a journey, isn't it? I suppose it's just how
It's
the
a very
journey goes.
textured journey now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Well, but then also the more you're into that space, I don't want to say the easier it gets, but it's almost like it becomes secondhand, like second nature.
Yeah, that's
it
what I was trying
becomes
to
part
think.
of you. But then also, if we have a soul purpose and we ultimately know that we don't really have free will, because there is a direction that you're being led. You're going to go kicking or screaming. You can go easy, you can go hard. It is whatever that encounter is. So for Solreta, that is part of her journey that was destined to play out. Right. So listen, you may wake up tomorrow, Rachel, and some of those Palladians or Grays may be or bad, being like, "You ready, girlfriend? It's your turn." And so if that's what's meant for you, right, it'll come your way.
I'm like, okay, so I need to go inside. I need to update my frequency. I need to go two octaves up. Like, what was that formula again?
Rachel's making notes.
Anyway, whatever. I
But
must be
you'll
ready for
find
it.
your
Otherwise, I
own way,
wouldn't be here.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find your own way,
It
and
involve a lot more
also,
screaming.
but also the fact that we're here now, this information wouldn't have found you if you wasn't ready.
Mm.
The information
Yes.
that, like, Solreta's given us and saying and speaking, the fact that she's here, if we weren't ready for her,
I agree. And for anyone watching us, it's the
wouldn't
same for
be here.
you.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
what you said
100%.
before, Amanda, where you were talking about, if we had that conscious choice to go back to sleep, we wouldn't choose that. And I think that that's what I felt when I was younger, was being in this world where I felt like I was walking through a wake, seeing beyond the veils. And I just always felt like I would be alone, that I wouldn't have others around that, saw what I saw. Or, as you sort of get on, you go to school and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, this is definitely not other people experiencing
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. So I'm just so excited as an adult to be able to have people to have these conversations with. And it was really when the internet started to get a little bit more developed and, we got beyond chat rooms and things, that I started to connect with other people. So I just want people listening out there to know that they're not alone, if they are seeing or experiencing these things, or if they've even got that little flame of desire to connect with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Was that
Right.
time COVID? Was it the pandemic? Because I know what you're talking about, but and I'm sorry to bring up COVID. I know that it's so divisive. I'm not talking about anything else. But even with COVID, I see so many I had the weirdest sensation of COVID that I found it extremely stressful and disturbing. But so much that happened in COVID changed my life for the better. And I would say even, we would have got to this Zooming stage, but nowhere near as fast as with COVID. Without COVID, I feel like I wouldn't have met, Yana, for instance, because those courses wouldn't have existed like that, because they still wouldn't have been online, because we hadn't been there. Did you have is that what you're talking about? Is it around that time?
No, it was probably about 20 years before. So
okay.
Around when I was in college too. So meeting other people that spoke light language and we could understand each other. And we had, I think there was maybe 4 or 5 of us that could speak light language. One girl was the translator, and, there's a few different
Wow.
languages and things. So, it was physically also getting to be around other people. And when you're speaking in a room together and the room starts to disappear and you're just standing amongst the galaxy, strange things like that happening, and getting to connect with others that are more on that same sort of soul tribe level. But it was really, finding people that had had ET experiences online, or that were more into the spiritual side of things. I just knew that I wasn't alone anymore, and that there was a much bigger mission. And I also could see that how far we were spread out across the world. It was like these little lights all being lit up across the planet.
I want to
So I've
ask
got a question. Oh.
Go ahead, because my questions, I'm like, oh, they're part of like part 2 and the hypnosis, because you're like hitting
Oh, right.
I
No.
want to touch. So you
Okay,
go.
mine isn't. I was going to say, so Solreta. So what are the Greys up to?
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about that they exited the planet or were exiled. When was it? Maybe, I'm not sure of the time, like the timestamp that people are claiming on that, but I have still seen activity. So a lot of the stuff that they're doing with CERN and messing around with opening portals and things, we saw a wave of a couple of them come back through over the last few years. So we're seeing like a lot more astral attacks, a lot more entity things, a lot more of, I guess you would say, it looks perhaps human, but there's other things occupying or running things in the background, especially a lot with government. And we're starting to see, a lot more people start to talk about it. So when we see people start to talk about it, we know that it's starting to be present in that collective conscious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's sort of, I guess, the latest update on that side of things.
Right. Okay. And in terms of like the greys, now I'm gonna go here. So in terms of like the greys, is it that I know within the greys there are different races of greys. So I guess not all of them, yeah. But the ones that obviously people have spoken about and the ones that are those the greys that like when they that are doing the abductions, are they the ones that are kind of in cahoots with say like the background government and doing lots of hybrid work and that sort of stuff? What
Yeah.
first one? And the second question is, there was a talk about the fact that the greys are possibly us in the future
Yeah.
if we go a certain timeline in terms of
Yeah.
losing our humanity, losing our soul and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, so they say
do you
that
know?
they're more kind of like robots, the ones that are working with the
Mm,
government that have, I guess, organic skin suits. And
yeah,
there's many different fractions of different types of greys. I always talk
yeah,
about just like if we were to have someone come to our planet and we don't want to be judged just to do with like, say, our government over here. So it's, judging them on a case-to-case basis, because
uh-huh.
sometimes there will be some that are working more for the positive or for advancement and scientifically for human development. And with the second part that you were talking about, can you just maybe ask me that question again?
Okay, yeah. So there is like this sort of belief that the greys are actually us in the future.
Yeah.
That we've lost that heart space, that soul, that kind of, and the ability also to sort of regenerate or to to procreate, all of that type of stuff. Is that
Yeah.
do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so when I've looked into that deeper in sessions, and we can look at our digestive tract too, and just how much
Mm,
with the spraying of things that have happened, I won't get too far
yeah.
into it, I know we're on YouTube, but
Sausage.
the certain things that are sprayed
This is a
onto
barbecue
plants and
already.
crops, we'll just call it desiccation. That's the word that they clear to be able to stamp to say that things are okay to eat as food when they're clearly
Yeah.
not. So it's actually changing our digestive system, and we have all these little things inside of us called microvilli, which look like little
Yeah.
seaweed swimming in the
Yeah.
gut. And
Yeah.
what happens
Waving.
with
Yeah.
this chemical, it flattens them off. And so we don't have the ability to be able to absorb nutrients. And when we look into us potentially being some greys in the future, and they don't have the ability to be able to absorb things digestively, they've maybe perhaps had some things altered, some, we'll just say links or things like that start to integrate within their mind, becoming more or less emotional. So we can sort of
Yes.
see
That's
the
it. That's
early
it. That's the word.
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see the early starts of what's happening to modern day humans, like right now. But if we just snapshot this period in time, then we can see a
Mm,
trajectory that's not too hard to imagine us as them in the future.
mm. Thank you. Wow.
Not in
Fascinating.
my reality. Right, ladies? Are
That's
you
the
all
end
with
of my
me?
sausage.
Not
Yeah,
in this
we're changing
reality.
timelines.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
because that's not like the thought of that. It's interesting because talking about shifting realities, I know there's been a few times, very key moments in my life, and maybe over the last 5 years or so, where I have realized that because I consciously said no, that is not how it's going to work out. This is the only option, the only road. It's as if it's played out that way. Like what I said was the only way, was the actual reality that played out. But I do believe that it's only because of my certainty that this is it. I only accept this. I don't want this other crap or whatever it was.
Mm.
That's the only reason why it shifted. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 And so because I believe
Yeah.
that this is how it's going to work out, I was like, no, only this. That's exactly how it played out. And it was like this very easy. I wasn't struggling. I wasn't trying to like make it happen. I was just like, no, there's only one option, and it's this road. And so I take all of that gray stuff where I'm like, oh no, like it's going to affect all that. No, like block, do not accept that in my reality, because I don't want that to be the trajectory that I or my lineage or anything has to like face. And I know that may sound crazy, Rachel, but it is true.
Honestly, Yana, the absolute opposite. I'm like, I have seen this live out in your life over and over and over and over again. 100%. That is exactly how it is. It is the force of your will. It is quite extraordinary to watch. No, it's the opposite. I'm 100% validating you by being part of your experience.
But look, I think all timelines, we know all timelines are existing together. So there is, and there could possibly be a version of me that is in a timeline experiencing that, or experiencing that which, you know, this Amanda may not want to experience. And there could be other loads of our, you know what I mean, listeners and watchers who, you know, are experiencing that. They could be in a simultaneous timeline, but also we're appearing as the Your Soul Wisdom show in their timeline as well. But we just want them to know exactly what you've just said, Yana, that there are all these different possibilities, and that, you know, you have the ability to choose, you have the ability to make choice. We're told we don't, but we do.
Honestly, Yana, just by the way, just yesterday, I had the experience of going, oh my God, I'm turning into Yana. Because there's a couple of things that have shown up in my life that I'm like,
amazing.
Is it honestly like this? Like you actually just say it? Like you actually just say it like it exists and then it actually exists? Really, it only just happened yesterday. So that is weird. This is coming up. But anyway, I was thanking very much for having you as a role model in my life.
Well, listen, what we have discovered, especially this was the topic we just covered in our monthly call for the collective, right? Be in the vibration of it, say it out loud, abracadabra. We talk about that all the time. We still need to do the episode, and we will. And so I've only just over the last how many years realized, like, oh, I am a creator, right? I am creating my own reality. And we hear that all the time. People say you are the creator of your own reality. What does that actually mean? And so as these little like nuggets fall into our laps, it's like that starts to shift, and you start to go, oh, it really can be that easy. But there are still like things where I don't want to say they're difficult for me to focus on, but there are sometimes I'm like, I really do need to be focusing on this, and I don't. Right. But that's like for all of us, right? And something that you mentioned, Solreta, in I'm just gonna bring up this one point in your hypnosis, is that we're actually living and experience this in all life. So like all of our past lives that play out are also currently playing out, and there's a similar theme throughout them, right? And so I remember one time I had a download, maybe this was like within the last year, and I hate that word download for me. Like I don't resonate with that. It was like all of a sudden, I think I sent all the ladies with like voice note of like, oh my God, I don't know how I know this. But all of a sudden it was like the Hebrew letters, the sound frequency of that, the coding of that. It became very, very apparent to me that that is the codes to the matrix. That is your reality playing out in all the lifetimes. And there is a lifetime where I am being disempowered, and there's a lifetime where I am in my power. And the more we balance that out, the more we can collapse the timelines, right? Or versions of ourselves to really start narrowing down those. Is that true though? Do we really narrow down timelines as we shift or level up to start bringing them all together?
I sort of see it as more that it's like we're opening up to more of the oversoul coming in. And this is one of the things that we talked about in the hypnosis too. And there was a clip that I put up just about talking about the oversoul as like this diamond fractal. So if we imagine that we are on a higher level, a diamond fractal of light, and there's all different facets that are within that. So I'm experiencing one facet in this lifetime, in the here and now. But what you have happen, like when I start to look into the aura drawings, and sometimes with some of the guides, they're actually different versions of us. So we think about, you know, time that we're taught in school being linear, and it's like 3D, past, present, future. It's actually more kind of multidimensional. So I might be here, but I might be in Pleiades experiencing that lifetime, or I literally could be, you know, a mermaid off world in one of the oceanic worlds at the same time. What you can have happen when you start to awaken within this reality is you can actually start to get guidance come in from other versions of self. So they may have already experienced or gone through a positive shift that humanity is about to go through. So we can actually get more into alignment with what they've experienced and start to incorporate or bring different skills and gifts and abilities into our timeline as well. Or, maybe it's we want to understand more about speaking light language, so we can tap into a version of us that speaks light language and uses that for healing, or, unlocking, or, bringing things in, different vibrations and things in.
So do you think that
Yeah.
there is a aspect of you or a fractal of you that is actually a fairy? Because you're constantly bringing in the fairies in the physical. And so there's a reason why they are present around you. And they may be present around me every single day, but I'm not like, it's not, I don't see it. I don't experience it. None of that. For you, it's a repeated thing that shows up for you.
Yeah. So when I was a child, it was more that, I had this fascination and a desire to see fairies. And I always saw them as orbs in the forest. So I grew up near the forest, and, we see them as sort of blue, green, and red, about maybe baseball size here in Australia. When I've been to the States, sometimes I'll see like big violet ones, big white ones that are like opalescent with like pink shimmers. So it depends, I feel, to do with the plants. You have different types of nature spirits or elementals, fairies. And there was just maybe a couple of years ago, maybe like 2 years ago, year and a half, Spirit just said to me, say, I do believe in fairies. And it was literally just that statement, say it 3 times. And I think it was maybe, I don't know if it was later that day or the next day, I was sitting just about here. There used to be another seat there. And I was just sitting looking at the cockatoos, because we've got those beautiful white cockatoos with the yellow crest that you Aussies know about, and just watching them. And something's like, film them. And so I was filming these cockatoos, feeding with the bird feeder. And there was 2 fairies. Oh, actually, no, 3. One sort of came in around the bottom of where I was filming, and I'm like, oh, is that like a dandelion seed? The wish fairies that you see carry on the wind. And then I saw 2 more. There was 2 that came over the branches. So I'm like, rubbing my eyes, and I thought, I'll just play the camera back. Surely it's a dandelion. And then I saw the wings, I saw the body, the little legs of them flying past the branches. And it just blew my mind. So I think it is about us calling these things in a way. And, there's a lot of fairy tales and a lot of people, still in Ireland and places like this, where this stuff's very much real every day. But my messages that I've had come through from the fairies, and of course, we don't want to call anything that's not for our best and highest good, or work with anything that might be misaligning us. So, that's where it is important to have that discernment. But we have faces and things show up in the forest, and I'll have people screenshot it on YouTube. And I don't think I shared one with you. I'm not sure. There's one that I've got it's like a green giant standing in the background, just watching as I'm filming on YouTube. And there's a spirit photographer, a friend of mine, who was watching an episode I was doing. I can't even remember which episode it was. He put a filter and he goes, just look at this. And he just brightened it. And you see this whole love heart shaped green face with these huge almond shaped eyes just standing in the background, just watching. And so quite often I'll have, oh, actually, look at this. So I don't have the photo of you right now, but this is an example. Someone's drawn and channeled this. We actually have a photo of this guy in the background with the antlers and everything. So the things that we see in fairy tales and stories that have dropped into people's consciousness, they're actually, existing on another wavelength or vibration. So, there's some talented artists out there that are able to draw these things.
That is crazy, because I don't know if anyone's played Legend of Zelda, but there is a elemental in the forest that looks exactly the way that you described that. And I'm like, someone in Japan's downloaded that and put it in the video game. But anyway, I digress. So I have a story to share. I'll have to show you that. I had a fairy encounter, and I actually told it to F off because I don't trust fairies. And I believe it was because I've been programmed that way. Can you please enlighten me to not tell fairies to F off? And I don't want mischiefness. I don't want you to hide my stuff. Okay. But are they actually beneficial?
Yeah. And sometimes they do take things.
Yeah. I'm like, no, not today. Yeah. I literally told to F off. I was in a castle in Slovenia. And I saw one, and I'm like, oh, Satan, that's not a fairy. And then that leaf was like flapping. There was no other leaves. And I'm like, not today. And it stopped. and that thing followed me all the way to the border. And I'm like, this is my protection. You stay in your country. Bye-bye. Please tell
Wow.
me, was that necessary to do?
Well, I guess it's always just check in. So, check in with the message you get from your heart. And for some people, I'm like, check in with your heart, check in with your gut, and just ask, is that for my best and highest good? Or you can even ask the entity. There is universal law from a shamanic side of things that if something is asked 3 times, that you have to tell the truth, or you have to reveal, if you are positive or negative, because you do have trickster beings, especially within the fairy realm. So, we've all heard stories of people getting taken into fairy circles and things. But the story that they shared with me when they started to come more into the physical and they started to appear more around readings that I was doing was that when the veil fell between the 4th and 3rd dimension, so we go back to ancient medieval times when fairies and dragons and unicorns were still in our stories and still talked about very much being real, there was a big veil that fell. So think about like a heavy fog falling and we no longer had the vision or that sense of being able to connect with them. There was a huge sadness that came over them. It's like them looking from beyond the veil, still being able to see us and still wanting to connect like brothers and sisters and help us to keep our hearts and our eyes open. And so with the time that we're coming into now, that veil's being lifted. And so that's why I feel like the fairies are now appearing in camera, and it's like soft disclosure. It's the same with ET and UFO contact as well. Especially for women, we tend to experience more ET UFO contact in meditation or in the dream realms. And that's a much easier, softer way to be awakened to their presence. Whereas there's some men that I know that have had the full-blown encounters of the physical kind where they show up and they literally shit themselves and it changes their whole life, and they'll have marriage collapse, they'll lose jobs, they'll not be able to be employed anymore. So I think being women, we are lucky, or being sensitive, no matter if you're masculine or feminine, being sensitive to these things, it does seem to be a little bit more subtle. But I think they're definitely in a hurry to get people to come back to that remembrance of where we were working side by side. And I do feel like a lot of the magic and a lot of our knowledge of herbs and things has come from the elementals and the witches of the past and the oracles that would communicate with them.
I'm going to send
Well,
fairies
Solreta,
to you.
I
'Cause
was
I'm
gonna
good.
say,
Yeah.
go.
I'm good. I just barely accepted a dragon. I'm not accepting. So you know what? I believe it. I'm not fucking with it. You can have the fairy. Amanda, I know that you want to. Can I just butt in with one quick question? Because this
And
is
then I do
absolutely
have one. I've just got to. I've got to say.
so
I've got.
we've
I will
1,
go
2,
after.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in Area 51 6 years ago. Okay, in that highway. And I stayed the night in don't ask, this is a long story. I didn't know where I was going. Look, it's one of those Kylie stories that I'll spare the details, but it was one of those ones I was driving, didn't realize it, was staying in a place that I didn't know about, was just told to go with my friend. And anyway, I had an ET, little interaction. So I was talking to something that I was a little bit like, I don't know if I want to be talking to you. And they're like, we were pulled in. So is it possible that this might be a little sausage territory? Sorry in advance, YouTube, please don't ban us. Is it possible that the government is actually pulling in these ETs and using them as tools?
I'm so glad that you said Area 51 because I've been there too. So I was there, I think it was 2018. And
that would have been around when I was there too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep, that would have been around that time too.
Yeah. So for me, when I went there was definitely a stronger government energy and more of a negative vibration when it comes to like the ET side of things. So as the car that we were in, so I think there was 3 adults in the car and I had my 3 children as well with me. So, we're getting closer and closer to the gate. And the adults in the car, we all of a sudden all started to get headaches. And something about this to me, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I want to turn around. It just you know, it's getting stronger and stronger. And it's similar to, you know, people talk about certain interactions with Sasquatch or Bigfoot when you go into their territory and you're not supposed to be there. And other times, you know, they'll pop in and you'll see things. That's like a whole nother story with Bigfoot, Yowies and things. But anyway, so the closer that we got, the stronger this strange, almost like an electronic, I call it psychotronic warfare, because that's what it felt like it was
That's
to me.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And the children weren't experiencing that, luckily. But yeah, my ex-partner at the time was hell-bent on going as close as he could. And then it was just getting too strong for even him. So yeah, that was
No,
our experience with Area 51. So
that's very similar to me. And we didn't go, so I didn't know where we were going. We basically got in the car in Vegas and we're like, oh, we're gonna go stay at a random ghost town Airbnb. And I'm like, cool, I've got wine, I'm ready to go. So I go, I had no idea where we're going. And then I'm like, where are we going? And they're like, oh, Area 51's just around that hill. It was green. It was bright. It was dead of the night. It was green. There were explosions. And
oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
we're staying here the night. So we stayed the night. I kid you not. I spent that whole damn night removing stuff off of everyone, the whole night. And I vowed I would never go back. Beautiful Airbnb, but I'm not going back. That's my
Oh my
story.
gosh.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
it does not have a feeling of you wanting
no,
to
if
go
you
there.
have an inkling to go to Area 51, unless you want to invite, if you don't know what you're doing, I feel like if you're open but you're not quite there yet, I feel like you'd be opening yourself up.
Yeah, and I can't over describe the feeling of dread and
No, it
just,
was
oh my
awful.
God,
I
being
think that was
crushed
probably
in with
one of the
fear.
worst places, top 3 places. I've been to some weird places. That's top 3 weirdest
Yeah,
energies I don't wish to go back to.
yeah, there's just a feeling of wanting to get the hell out of there as fast as you
Yes.
can.
You
Yeah.
can't. Yep. Okay.
And I do think that that's a psychic layer of protection, that they're also admitting those kind of waves and that frequency to keep people out. And I'm like, you know what? I'll respect that. I don't want to be anywhere near that.
I have no business being here. Why did you people bring me here? You know, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Amanda, you were next, and then it was Lauren.
No, Lauren. Let Lauren go.
Lauren's
No,
first.
is yours on the same topic though? Because mine's a slightly different thread.
Yeah, kind of same topic.
Then you go.
Okay.
Then you
go. So I was going to say, because I think you girls know, I've spoken about it before, that I tend to see elementals a lot and things like that. So I was just going to retell that story because I never said it live. I think it's just between us about the time when I had a centaur come for a reading. And you know, the centaur is a sort of like half horse, half man. Yeah. And I had a feeling, it came out of the blue. I didn't know. I had a feeling that a centaur was going to turn up for this reading that I was having. And I was in a group at the time, and one of the ladies at the time, she said, I think there's something wrong with like his front paw or something like that. And I said, okay, well, I don't know. I said, so we'll see when he comes. And when the person turned up the next day, because that was when I was doing in-person sort of readings and work and stuff like that. When he turned up, I'd never seen him before. I'd never met him before. And when he turned up, when I opened up the door, this huge sort of like 6 foot odd guy walked in through the door, and he had, you know, like how usually the centaurs, they have long hair and they have like either a bun or like a man bun. That was exactly what he looked like. And the stranger thing was, as he walked in through the door, I just started walking backwards because I was like, Jesus, you know, like as if you're letting this sort of like massive centaur just come inside, just dip and just walk inside the house. And I was like, oh my God, does he even know what he is? Do you know what I mean? And afterwards, I found out kind of like what his name was through obviously sitting with him and reading. I found out what it was, and I checked it out online. I just looked to see, have I got this right? And he was like the son of like apparently quite a well-known centaur, reborn. The funny thing is that the person in this lifetime, and I think this is an important thing, obviously has no idea he's a centaur, has some sort of interest in that kind of world, not that kind of world, but those kind of like, you know, ancient sort of like mythology and Greeks and stuff like that. But in this world, in this lifetime, in this incarnation, he's pretty lost.
This sounds like
He's
an
pretty
excellent
lost.
romance novel
Amazing.
outline. And I'm waiting for the next,
Well,
like,
Mills and Boons.
yeah, exactly. Like, did he throw you against, like, I just wanted to know.
Not me. It wasn't like
Oh,
that.
okay.
I was married. I'm married.
Okay,
No, I
fine.
wouldn't
Oh
have even
my
gone through.
God.
No. But it was just that the fact that he was and he came in because he had something wrong with his I think it was his, can't remember which arm, but it was his arm. So that would be his front, because his legs would obviously be his hind legs. Be the hind legs, and it was his front. He had something wrong with his arm, but he's a centaur.
That's amazing.
And yeah,
Wow.
so they do exist. I'm sorry, but and I have seen other people. Like I said to you guys, I had a chemistry teacher who was a leprechaun. Was an absolute leprechaun.
I have a
So
garden
word of a
gnome.
lie. And
I
they
have a garden
exist.
gnome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who you are? What did you say?
I have a garden gnome.
Oh, you have.
Only that
I
would
have
be
a
a
garden gnome. His name's
leprechaun.
Frank. So come at me with your leprechaun and your centaur.
Yeah.
I'll raise you an ET and a garden gnome.
So Rita, I
Lauren,
was
how are you
hoping,
going to follow
yeah.
that up?
Yeah.
Oh, well, mine's a slightly different thread. As I said, so already you mentioned dream time and things being introduced more gently to us. I've definitely asked this question myself before when I've had readings for myself, because I know I'm busy all night. Sometimes I even wake up talking and making agreements, and then I'm like, shit, I don't even know what I just agreed to. But then, I get messages through the day and whatever it may be. And so I've desperately wanted to know what I'm doing at night. But in a reading, I was actually told that it wouldn't serve me as a human in this incarnation. I'm just wondering if there's any information, not about me, but just for people in general who are having this experience of, definitely doing things off world or something in their nighttime.
Yeah, so I have it come up in reading. So even with your gorgeous reading, we had the violet come up around the astral. So sometimes when there's things happening in the astral realm or at nighttime or even in like meditation, you'll see sometimes what I call galactic blue, which is more of like a midnight blue color, or you'll see violet or indigo, usually around that region of the aura. And what I see with some of my clients is they're doing what we call battles. So sometimes they're actually fighting galactic wars and things, or they're helping to close off different portals, or they're helping to do rescue missions, things of that kind of nature. But I've definitely experienced what you were saying, like talking in your sleep. I've freaked some people out speaking light language in my sleep, and sometimes even had like contact experience waking up, speaking light language to beings that are standing in the room, then realizing I'm actually awake. So the line between the dream world and coming into our physical is getting much smaller. So sometimes when we're dreaming, there's a lot more dreams that I'm hearing from people at the moment with my clients, and also with myself, that's like alternate realities that were actually jumped in or plugged into a whole other reality. And my partner, I gave him, with my potions that I made him a potion one night and put a little bit of blue lotus in it too. And he woke up the next morning and he's like, I had the like clearest, most vibrant dreams. It was like this whole other world or universe, and you and I were like living there, and he could see that we had children and things. And because being clairvoyant, I'm like, oh, okay, were they girls and were they ages this and this? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and we're at this festival. So it's like we're kind of merging worlds, but tapping more into, I guess it's like the movie Doctor Strange, the Marvel movie where there's like this multiverse. So yeah, I think some of us are maybe at night communicating with other multiverses and maybe jumping in and helping out a little bit, coming back into this reality, because it is shifting things in our reality too. So it's like a twofold kind of beneficial thing.
Yes.
That's right up
Lauren.
Lauren's alley.
That is, but Lauren,
That
your
is
swords.
right. What she's probably
Your
in there with her
swords.
crystals.
You said that.
Like,
do you remember the picture I sent? Yeah,
I
remember
do.
the picture I sent that says, remind me, do you remember? Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, yes, and yes.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Meanwhile, you're here in this universe, reading poems and,
Well, I mean, yeah, and there are times like I literally wake up screaming and my husband has to kind of like shake me to go, hey, you're okay, you're here, and hold me. But, I know it's from something that's happened, and I don't necessarily think it's a dream. you know.
Yeah.
And there are some
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
You know, I lucid dream, I have prophetic dreams, I have lots of experiences when I'm asleep, but I know whatever I'm doing that is, quote, active in another plane, I don't really know what that is at this time.
What that is.
Anyway.
And it's that feeling that you were saying, you actually said it perfect, Lauren, when you said, you know that it's not a dream. And I think that's the thing that we so easily dismiss or discount and go, oh no, it was just a dream, because that's what we've been programmed with. But I think there's a new part of reality that's opening up into, okay, maybe it was something between dreaming and between this conscious layer. That's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing that we do have to be aware of, that like you said, I think you said earlier, that the veil is thinning. There's lots of things that we have access to now that's opening up now that we didn't have before. And that's why, you know, it is really important that we do start to remember and know who we are and begin to step into that, because these veils are opening and we're getting more access to our sovereignty, to our power, to really knowing the truth of it. And if we keep ourselves in the doubt place or in the place of disbelieving, then we do ourselves, I think, a massive disservice, you know. Question I wanted to ask though, just quickly. So you see, like with the fairy world, for the most part, are they that size because they're in this dimension? Because my understanding is that when the creation of this planet was done, that world, that fairy world, or that elemental world came in, I think, from Orion. They were brought in order to help to seed the planet and to grow the forest and grow the greenery, grow the food and everything like that. They were brought in to create that kind of world. But when they came in, they weren't this size. They were literally, you know, I mean, well, I don't know if they were 6 foot odd or whatever, but they were tall beings that came in off the ships, and they came in on ships that came into the planet in order to see. Do you know anything about? Is that true?
I hadn't heard that version. So like from an Aboriginal side of things over here and the original story, we hear that with Uluru, so our big rock that's right in the center of Australia, which goes another quite a few layers underneath, some of the elders talk about that all life that was going to terraform our world was seeded onto that rock. And so it was thrown like a giant spearhead from the Pleiades that came down and seeded life all over the world. But when I look to the fairy side of things, and we look into, you know, different soul readings and things that I've done, there are different off-world fairy types. So I think maybe we're talking about a couple of different ones. And then when you look into the old days of theosophy, and they talk about divas and they talk about elementals, and I think it was Arthur Conan Doyle. They even reference him in that kids' movie where they talk about that they do believe in fairies and things. So very much like in the old spiritualist days, they were talking about angels and elementals and fairies and that. But if you look at the way that they talk about it, and in a lot of the written literature, so each blade of grass is supposed to have a diva that resides over it, which is like a spiritual being or a spiritual entity. So say like a sunflower would have a spiritual entity that resides over it. So there's, I guess, they're sort of like the smaller, almost like a spiritual essence of the plant. So when you're working with like flower essences, that's sort of part of the energy that you're working with, you know, vibrationally on a medicinal level. So there's, I guess, all the different ways up to maybe perhaps beings that are more working with humans, or more some that are kind of fairy-like but ET. And I forgot to say as well, one of my beautiful clients that I've read for a really long time, he always used to joke, he's like, to his family, he's like, Soul's a giant fairy. And then when the fairies started coming in, he's like, see, I told you. So I do think there is the ET fairies, there is angelic fairies as well. And you see this, like just as you were describing that amazing story about the center, you know, even one of my girls, she's like part angelic, part fairy. And, you know, they can have a mischievous streak to them as well. They're quite funny.
Kylie's having the power of that.
I'm hiding my keys.
Okay.
It is annoying when things disappear from the physical. We had that with a camera one time, but that was a Bigfoot story.
Yeah, I've got several things missing now.
That was
I'm like, bring it back.
Fairy. It's amazing.
Anyway.
It's turning into a specialty sausage shop now.
Yeah, how do I transition from Bigfoot
Yeah.
now?
I want to hear, I don't mean to be greedy, but I'm really interested in what Solreta has to say about the five of us.
Oh yeah, let's have a look into that. So I can pick some cards and we can tune into the collective energy. What I sort of see, like oracally looking at you together. So let me maybe go like one by one. So like today, Rachel's got this beautiful golden, and I know you've chosen to wear like a yellow jumper as well, but you do have this beautiful gold blended with yellow aura with aspects of green. So this would be more kind of gold representing that higher energy, that frequency coming down, connected to source and connected to your higher self. Yellow representing, really being open to learning, education, study, intellectual, and then you've got
Mostly.
a lot of a lot of green. It's further out in your aura around the spiritual region, and this is really connected to heart and to the emotional body too. It's interesting because it's more on the left, and the left is, connected to do with our past. So that's sort of like a quick look in energetically. And we've got, with Lauren's energy too, there's beautiful like pinks and violets and purples and indigos, and then like this gorgeous kind of like white opalescence color that you've got. So this is someone who's like very much like has this mystical energy, and there's like definitely past lives around working as an oracle and mystic and kind of like the witchy vibe as well, and herbs. I'm seeing like little tinctures and things. That's sort of like looking in, just to a couple of you in general, because I'm not sure how long you want the show to go, but do you want to look into the collective, like your actual, like your audience and that, and sort of see like what you girls are doing?
Oh,
I'd
guess
love to, but I just want
I
to
like
say
what you were
Kylie and
doing
Amanda
right
really
now.
want you to talk to they really want you to tell them. Like just like go for it. As long as you need.
So Rita, this show ends when we want it to end. Okay.
Oh, good.
And
I just
so
didn't want to
we're
take up
buckled
too
in.
much time.
We're
No.
buckled
Take up all
No.
the time, honey. Take up all the time.
Sometimes I like to close my eyes to see energetically deeper as well, because our 3D eyes, it's connected to our brain like a camera. So with Amanda, what I'm seeing is, it's so funny because I keep seeing this beautiful soul overlay. So just as you were describing the centaur before, I actually see you in this. There's like another kind of galactic version of you. So I see the starseed version of you, and I see this amazing like oracle that's come in from like this ET, I would say more the ET realms. So let me have a deeper look into that. And what I also see is working on council. And I'm also seeing like there's peacekeeper type energy that's associated with that as well. And it's not sort of being pinned down to like just specifically one place. I feel like you're much sort of like
Yeah.
bigger and more varied than that, because I feel like there's fractions and there's information that you've taken from different places. And I just keep seeing like a huge record book or huge kind of like knowledge bank that's connected with that. And
You
it's just
have
pulling on
seriously
each of
met
those
her
things that you
before
need.
and Rick figured that out. How is that possible?
I'm just saying exactly what I see. So
Oh
I'm just
my
getting
God, that
spirit,
is
like, show
her.
me a vision.
Yeah. That is Amanda.
That is Amanda.
Yeah.
Thank you. And my
I
blue.
really would love to go like bigger and bigger, because I feel like it's just sort of touching the tip of the surface. But yeah, it was amazing.
Thank
And this
you.
happened into Kylie as well. So this is funny. I see you in this beautiful gold bubble, and I'm seeing, imagine like when you see a bubble that you blow and you've got the shimmer on it, I can see that around you. And I'm sort of seeing it's like it's moving and everything, but I'm seeing all these faces like wanting to come in, or like you just have this light
That's
from the
my fuck
spirit
off
world.
energy.
It feels like a force field or protection, but I can
Mhm.
see, because you've got so much coming in from the spirit world side of things. And I'm not just talking about like 2 or 3, I'm literally talking about like a lineup of thousands wanting to
Quite
come and speak
exhausting.
with you. So
Wow.
yeah, that must be, a bit of work to keep putting that frequency or field up. But you've got this beautiful blue over your heart. There's a lot of wisdom that just pours through your heart. Blue is also the color of healing. So there's words when you speak from your heart. I'm seeing like stitching up people's wounds. So there's things that you can say to people that literally just provide healing on an emotional, physical, and spiritual level. It's just so cute the way Spirit's showing me like lovingly like stitching up people's hearts with the words that you say.
struggle with all those beautiful, very soft things that you're saying. Yes,
That-
thank you.
You're gonna make my grandma wait in line.
Let my guard down. Okay. Not sweet. Not lovingly stitching.
And with you as well, I just see, I mean, we did the aura. So we've got this representation of what your beautiful energy looks like. And you do have a strong dominant, sort of like a greeny kind of blue color that we drew in here, or turquoise, I should say. So turquoise is that color, and you've still got it today. Things change because it's like a photo of the energy that we're sort of sitting in or connected with on a soul level, but you still have that beautiful turquoise. So turquoise being that color that's connecting us to multiple universes, multiple worlds, and we're able to just tap in and channel and bring those aspects in. You actually have these beautiful, it's like soft kind of feather-like angel wings that I'm seeing today as well. So that's a little bit different to the layer that we saw the other week. But yeah, it's just like soft, kind of like feathery energy that I'm seeing you show up as today. Yeah, so that's a little bit just going into each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing.
And so we are well aware of the fact that when we come together, and so we are the soul wisdom tribe, but we are the collective, right? And so we're aware that when we come together, there's a sixth entity. It's like a sixth energy that comes in. And so we have built this beautiful community. And I don't even know if our mission is clear yet or if it's been defined yet, but there's a big goal, and very much is one of those where, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like maybe I'm speaking for all of us, where I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the goal looks like, but I know that goal is healing and strength and abundance and growth and all these beautiful things. And so I don't know what the trajectory is, but can you tap into whatever that trajectory or the energy of the collective is?
Yeah, sure. I'll grab my cards and we'll have a look what comes up. And it's just that strong, beautiful, clear. There's what I would say is the description that's different from some of the other soul groups and things that I've looked into, because I have done collective reads for some other community on other shows and things too. There's a clear, decisive knowing that comes up with this group. So part of like your overall mission, and I'll just show you. So I like to read with the cards facing down. And so we'll feel into those in a moment, and then we'll flip them over when Spirit sort of finished talking about them. But what I sort of see is this clear, decisive energy, and it's just this clear sense of knowing. So a big part of like your collective that you're working with visionaries, and you're working with people that are helping to bring things down into the physical plane and dimension. So you're helping them to conceptualize potentially like what a new earth could look like, what community could look like, and getting them to hold that energy in space. You've got like a massive manifestation community aspect with that. It's a little bit different to, some of the woo manifestation communities out there, because this feels very, very real, and it feels more like an ancient remembering. So it's like gods and goddesses coming together to do the work. And they may have, I just keep seeing it's like from far and wide. So I'm seeing ones that were maybe, in Egypt doing temple work, others in Atlantis, others in Machu Picchu doing, it just feels like such a conglomerate. And I do feel that there was a soul call that you put out to draw these souls in. And I'm seeing that, like, if you ever need to do that again, it's like they're just getting sent messages on the wind. So people showing up in the strangest of ways, or, just by sort of like a window opportunity of synchronicities is what they're showing. So I'll feel into these cards, and then we'll flip them. So a lot of what I'm seeing for the collective energy right now is, and I'm getting like a sensation in my left hand too. So there's a lot of like receiving energy and what it is that they want to receive, or like parts of the puzzle that they're working on currently. There's that beautiful turquoise like you have too. And then I see more of sort of like a galactic blue, but I keep sort of feeling it's like a watery energy. There's things that they're downloading and actually starting to embody with each of the episodes that they're listening to. So it's like having layers of remembering that they're restoring and putting back in their library. is what I'm seeing. So we'll flip the cards over, and it looks like there's in the cards too, there's a lot of healing as well that's coming from being in these the spirit's giving me the word soul talks. So we've got a 3 of Wands to start with, and with the 3 of Wands, I usually talk about the 2 of Wands being this energy of duality. So we've got the masculine, the feminine, this energy of earth. If you look at it from a Vedic point of view, Earth was created from the Vedic side of things to be a place to experience good and evil and like law of opposites, essentially. But we have a third wand in here, and this is Sun and Aries energy. So with this third wand coming in, you guys are attracting people that are disrupting the story of reality in the most positive of ways. Yeah, it's cool. So, spiritual warriors, ones that still are connected to their higher self, their soul, connected to source, and they're installing and bringing in a new story. What it is that you're helping them to break out of is old wounds. So we've got the card of sorrow. This is Saturn and Libra. This is all the control systems. It's all the people telling them to be quiet, telling them that, they're too much, or telling them that they don't fit in. This is their soul tribe of where they can let all of these wounds go. So we can shake out these 3 of Swords energies. And we have my beautiful little manifestor, the Queen of Disc. So with her, she has Capricorn energy. And we know with this is about everyone sort of going on their own trajectory. It's not about having to check over the shoulder to get permission. So it's like you guys are giving the green light for people to really go after that queen energy. What we see with this one, whoops, where's my camera? So we see here with the disc, which is a sphere with the flower of life over it. We also see that she has this, which also, sorry, come back to here. This represents sort of more the 5D. We see the pine cone with the antenna. So the group and yourselves are highly attuned to bringing in this frequency. And we also see inside of this, let me get it close, there's a Merkaba in a cube. So this represents that with that manifestation that we were talking about before we flipped the cards, about helping to bring things into the reality. Think about that Merkaba more existing around like the 5th dimension or higher, and the cube represents the 3D. So we literally have in the card show up what it is that we're talking about. And as far as like collective, like more towards future and the journeys and things too, we've got a 9 of Wands. So you're really giving people the tools and everything to help to get this job done down here. So I do feel it's not just a podcast, for people to learn and listen. You're actually collectively working to bring something into fruition. So we've got sun and moon kind of eclipse energy with Sagittarius. This is like everything that sort of happened, like all these crossroads, all these blockages. You're like, nope, we're building a bridge over it. Doesn't matter what happens, or if there's a negative agenda, we're building a bridge over it, and you're calling back and bringing peace. So you're bringing us into a new timeline with this. We've got the, where is he? The Knight of Swords. So there is kind of like a bit of a battle energy of going in, but it's more from the words that you're speaking is how it is that you're dealing with this spiritual battle down here in the earth realm. 2 of Swords, we've got Libra energy and the moon. So you're doing it in a very soft, divine, feminine way. The blue lotus at the center, we know that blue lotus activates DMT in the pineal gland. So a lot of what you're transmitting is even coming through on an energetic and a psychic level, but you're helping people establish and anchor a new vision down here. And then it's like they're taking it out into their communities too.
I mean, that's so beautiful. And it's funny because
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
In our call, which we just had 2 days ago, we talked about bringing in that queen energy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The month theme was about, manifestations and abundance and all that.
Yeah.
Bringing in that queen energy. So that was so beautiful and so spot on. And,
Can you just write that down? Like just
Yeah.
unpack and then put that on our
We've got it recorded.
We can transcribe it. We
There we go,
will.
transcribe that.
And she's a ballsy queen as well. Like she doesn't take crap from anyone. So it's a really good queen, because she first conceptualizes it in the quantum and sees it and feels it and just brings it in with that clear knowing. It's exactly what you were talking about before. And that
Did you
Rachel
just
I saw
see
the
it?
fairy. I saw the fairy. I
just
saw the
saw it.
fairy.
What was that?
As
What
she came
was-
around.
My
I missed
keys. Where are my keys?
Yes,
Oh,
sorry. Yes, queen energy visualizes it in the ethers and brings it to the 3D.
yeah, perfectly put together. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. What I want to do is I want to now shift into part 2. So before we go into part 2, I would love if you could let our listeners know where they can get their own magical reading, their own magical potions and all that, where they can find all your information.
Yeah. So my readings are over on solreta.com. And there's different types of readings. So there's psychic tarot readings, which we do the aura drawing in. We have a chat to spirit, and we also look into the tarot cards for confirmation. So you can ask any of your questions, whether it's like, 3D, 5D, beyond, and we can look into different areas of life. And then I do galactic readings as well. So we look more into star heritage, and we talk about soul missions and things of that sort of nature, and then try and like cram as much in as we can into the hour to get questions and things, but also the aura drawing. And then I've got my soul alchemy potions. And for those of you that are actually like watching visually as well, you'll be able to see there's 6 different potions that I have. And these were born to bring healing into the collective. So I was having immense heartbreak a few years ago and sipping my potion in the bath and crying, but feeling better from the herbs and the alchemy of what I put into my Heal a Broken Heart potion. And so that's how that was born. So it's to really utilize manifestation. And there's certain ones, there's cleansing vibes, there's vision quest, which is more for nighttime and like journey type work. And then my favorite would probably be I Am That Witch, which I would say if we're talking about queen energy, this is like queen energy, herbally speaking. Yeah, and
I
that's
love
over on
that.
soulalchemypotions.com.
Beautiful. And all the links for everything
Okay.
will be below everybody.
Thank
So
you.
Rita, do not go anywhere. Everybody listening, tune in to episode 2, where we really deep dive into the hypnosis session, the 1,004 or the 144,000. Is it starseeds?
Yeah, I think that's one word that we could use for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just we're going to go into all sorts of stuff. And so join us back. And for now, we thank you for allowing us to create this beautiful space. And we hope you have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.